Hello and welcome to Maximum Foods Inside Track. It's been another eventful fortnight in dairy, brought to you on the beautiful rooftop at Brisbane HQ. Big game tonight, the State of Origin Series, Game 1, go Queensland. The big news in the Australian dairy industry, April result or milk results were down 6.6% on last year, which is tracking at about 3.5% down year on year for the season. So milk is really contracting in the Aussie industry, hence some really hefty demand for milk for the new season. So we're seeing processors coming out with their new season milk prices, which is really aggressive in order to obtain milk for new season. Let's have a look at full cream milk powder. So it was quite a confusing result last night on the GDT. Results and the index showing that it moved down 0.3%, but this was actually quite skewed with instant whole milk powder coming back to standard levels, about 100 US above standard whole milk, and whole milk powder actually going up from last auction. So we saw some really strong demand from North Africa, from Southeast Asia. China and North Asia, interestingly enough, were at 17% participation, which is the lowest we've ever seen in auction history. Futures market did predict that China would come back quite hard on this auction in participation, but it simply wasn't the case. But it also begs the question now in terms of future auctions, you know, if they are going to come back in force and buy, what do their inventory levels look like? So if they do come back, then we will see some pretty considerable firming in the market. I'm still tailing off to the end of the season, so there's not a lot of product around, so we should see quite a bullish outlook for whole milk powder. Having a look at skim milk powder. Skim milk powder pricing has rebounded after about 6 weeks of negative results on the GDT. So yeah, it's an interesting one, that one. It really looks as though it's a bullish outlook again for skim as well. EU tight on supply. US supply is okay, but hard to get product out of the US, of course, and Australia, New Zealand end of season. So yeah, we still would have to look at quite a bullish outlook for skim milk powder over the next 3 to 4 months, with no real market dynamics correcting it either way. Having a look at cheese now, so the outlook is quite steady in the EU and the US. Supply is good, but demand is still there, so pricing reasonably balanced from last fortnight. In Australia and New Zealand, product and supply is really quite tight, and demand reasonable, so we're still seeing higher prices, and we should see this leading into the new season as well. The Australian retail market, we still haven't seen the full effect of these higher prices hitting our major retailers, so that's a big question mark as well. Will that burn off demand at these higher prices? I'm not sure. We still should see quite a bullish market for the next 3 to 6 months. Having a look at butterfat, much like skim, we saw a bit of a correction over the last 6 weeks in butter pricing, but it has rebounded again. So futures market hasn't been as bullish on butterfat as it has been on the powders. However, we do see some strong demand in China and globally. So you'd have to predict that butterfat pricing will remain firm as well. And like skim, there's no real market indicators suggesting that there'll be any relief in price. Having a look at whey powder. Whey powder has been quite inactive over the last 6 weeks, or sweet whey powder. We have seen a bit of a lift in pricing now, some good demand out of the US. So pricing has lifted incrementally from over the last fortnight. In terms of proteins, we see WPC levelling off a bit. Those remarkable prices that have been achieved over the last 6 to 12 months may be burning off a bit of demand on WPC 80. WPI is in still very short supply, so there doesn't seem to be anything suggesting that WPI is going to come back in pricing. In summary, the Chinese market, or the North Asian market, is the big elephant in the room. With low participation over the last 3 to 4 auctions, will they be coming back in force, and which would have a massive impact on global prices? pricing. Really the one to watch in the next fortnight. Thanks for listening to today's Inside Track. Big night tonight. Go the Maroons.
Go the Blues.